But we can move on to Drake Maye now, which is a huge focal and talking point of this game. He is his worst game of the season, worst game of his career, 13.7 QBR. And that includes a fourth quarter where he threw for over 200 passing yards and was 21 for 25. But through the first three quarters, he was really, really bad. And this was kind of a storyline that I talked about leading up to this game. But he had a chance, one, to become the youngest quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl, and two, to be one of these young quarterbacks that have popped in year two, and he'd have the chip over everyone else. He'd have the chip over Joe Burrow, whose biggest chip right now is he made the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy's biggest chip is he made the Super Bowl. He has the chip over Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams as, the furthest quarterback to make it the furthest. He has got a chip over C.J. Stroud. And then even Lamar Jackson and Mahomes, who are both excellent in their second years in the NFL, both first years as a starter, he made the Super Bowl compared to those two guys who were number one overall seed but failed to reach it. Now he's just another guy, a part of that list with Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow. So it very quickly changed, legacy talk for Drake Maye. But y'all's thoughts on Maye in this game and then Maye going forward?
I think that he's just Baker Mayfield with the Cleveland Browns 2.0. I think that he has so much talent, and I think that he has played to the high end of that talent. But I think that, and you know it more. You went back and watched the game today. I have not gone back and watched it. But I know from listening to a lot of other guys review it and break down the game that he was missing a lot of open throws, right? So there were a lot of times when he was getting pressured, but the defense was, as you do when you bring pressure, you're probably going to leave somebody open. The defense was leaving guys open, and May just wasn't finding them, or he was missing them. I think he just got spooked, and I think that's what happens when your offensive line allows 15 sacks in 3 games and allowed, 3 sacks in the first quarter of this game? Is it 3? 2 or 3? I think that you just start to expect the pressure, and you start to know you have to get the ball out faster and faster, and it makes it harder to see the field properly. And that's exactly what happened to Baker Mayfield at Cleveland. He had the good year, the fantastic rookie season where he broke the record for most passing touchdowns by a rookie. And then the offensive line just allows so many sacks, and he gets banged up like Maye, and he starts to make poor decisions like Maye, and he starts to act funny in the pocket because he sees defenders that aren't there. I think he's really it's the same situation. And I think I feel better about the Patriots and Mike Vrabel taking the proper steps to fix it, because they're not as dysfunctional an organization as the Browns are.
Probably a complete opposite, if we're being honest.
As far as organizations go?
Functionality.
Yeah,
I
for
would
sure.
agree.
So I have a lot of faith. Like this, I don't think this is the beginning of the end for Drake Maye like it was for Baker Mayfield. I don't think they're going to go trade for Kyler Murray like the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson or something. I think it's just an unfortunate. I think this is going to be a lot more like we were texting about it earlier. Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl. I think he got sacked 4 times in that Buccaneers Super Bowl, and they went out and they brought in an offensive tackle and the one who's at the Bengals now. He was at the Ravens beforehand.
Orlando Brown.
They went and got Orlando Brown to play tackle, and they went and got some other pieces for that offensive line. I think that's going to be what we're going to see from the Patriots. Maybe it's move Campbell to the interior and go get a tackle.
Vrabel said they're sticking with Campbell. He's the tackle.
All right. Well,
moving forward.
I stand corrected. I still have faith in that organization to put the right pieces around around to get other pieces besides Hunter Henry to put around Drake Maye to go out. And you said earlier, like at wide receiver, who did the Patriots have the advantage in a one-on-one matchup? And it's not really anybody. So I have the faith that the Patriots will go out and they'll find that guy, a wide receiver for Maye, like an elite top 10 wide receiver, and not Stephon Diggs. And they'll go, if it's not replace Will Campbell, get the pieces to put around Will Campbell, because the reality is you can be a good offensive lineman, but if if you've got 2 or 3 bad pieces on there, it makes everyone else look worse. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think a lot of it's not on him. I think that the sacks led to bad statistical performances and bad execution by him. And I think the sacks are not on him, but primarily. There's always a few QB sacks, but primarily I'm not too concerned about it as far as Drake Maye's future.
Of the 6 sacks, I had 2 were on him, and it was just coverage sacks where he's just holding the ball too long trying to get down the field.
Yeah. I have no concerns for Drake Maye, long term. But he did play. It was a very poor performance in the Super Bowl, and as we've harped on multiple times on this show, you never know if you're gonna get back, and so there's just really no like good. It's hard to have great feelings moving forward. Of like, kind of feels like the Seahawks were phenomenal, but you were right there, so it kind of still just feels like a blown opportunity. And so to play that bad in the blown opportunity, it's going to leave a sour taste in the mouth. But he's very talented. They're kind of on the front end of their theoretical window, though obviously you could go through a contention window and once again never make it back. It's just how it goes. But the window is open. Try to get them some weapons. It's not like they're in cap space hell or anything like that. They have flexibility to make moves, keep making the roster better. And like you already said, it's a good front office. They've been here before. They've done it before. The ownership has done this before. They kind of know what the moves are, and especially in terms of doing it before, I think it allows them to be a little more rational with how they think and a little more calm and not panic in terms of like, you compare it to the Baker Mayfield situation of like, oh crap, time to move on for Baker Mayfield because he played hurt for a season. We really got to change things up and like hit the red button. Like I don't expect them to hit the red button if like even next year, for example, doesn't go great. I think they'll be patient. So I mean, once again, I feel great long term, but at the same time, bit of a yikes performance on the biggest stage, and that hurts.
And the other thing I'll say to defend Drake Maye is I was defending Justin Herbert earlier today and yapping and talking about his sacks. The numbers that Maye put up, it's not just so he had the most sacks in NFL postseason history. He was sacked the most times in NFL postseason history with 21. That is not only the most, but what's crazy is it was the third most per game as well for a guy that played 2 or more playoff games. I think behind, I don't have it pulled up in front of me. I think there were other guys who, like C.J. Stroud one year, got sacked, I think, 7 times in a playoff game or 6 times. Maye averaged 5.25 sacks per game through his 3 or 4 playoff games, excuse me. Other guys, I think somebody got sacked 11 times in 2 games. It's remarkable that Maye was able to take these sacks and still win games, right? Put up 21 points against the 28 points against the Texans.
Threw 3 touchdowns against that defense.
Put up 16 points against the Chargers. And so the exact same argument that I used for Justin Herbert of being like, the guy this year over any 3-game stretch was getting sacked over 10 times over that stretch from the season beginning to season end. If you look at any 3-game stretch, there were more than 10 sacks in there. I think it was like 10.25. And yet Herbert gets to the playoffs. Maye was seeing that same kind of ridiculous averages. And unlike most guys, like I said, who if you got sacked 6 times, you lost and went home. So you're not part of this data of like sacks per game. Maye was still winning, right? And so that's another big part for me is like the guy was getting dogged on because of that offensive line, and yet still found ways to win. The defense helped him out a ton. I will give them that. And situationally,
the defense won those games.
Situationally, like you faced Jarrett Stidham instead of Bo Nix, but he was still like you could have had a quarterback go out there and absolutely choke it against the Broncos.
But like by numbers, he had the worst run statistically of any quarterback in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so
I don't disagree
really
with you.
think he like.
But
really, go ahead.
When he was called upon, he made the play for the 3 wins that he needed to.
And and before the pick 6, he had that shot, like you said, the touchdown that made the game competitive again. And then yes, he gets pressured because the offensive line is bad, and unfortunately throws a pick 6. But like, he had a terrible postseason statistically. He did not play great, but he still played his butt off to get them in the situation.
Hooray! He tried hard. Hang the
and
banner.
It worked. It worked for 3 games against 3 of the best defenses in the NFL.
I don't like the full the hate on Maye sequence. Yeah, he played bad in the postseason.
He knows he plays bad. He'll get better. But I'm just not gonna like give him claps for trying hard.
Well, I'm gonna give him claps for being literally 1 vote from winning MVP.
Phenomenal regular season.
Winning 3 playoffs against 3 fantastic
games.
Defenses.
I guess I've already like given him flowers. He played poor in the playoffs and then played terribly in the Super Bowl. Was really bad. He'll tell you he was really bad. He knows that like there's things that need to be improved on. So like let's go get it done. He's very talented, but just simply didn't show up.
Yeah. Speaking of things he's got to improve on, one of them I do think one of them is you can clean up the sacks a little bit. One of the things he did not do well this year is he was not really good at adjusting at the line of scrimmage and adjusting the protection. If you, not that he's the GOAT, and I don't like that. I don't like how guys with Herbert like to compare them to goats and Peyton Manning, Mahomes for no reason when they're not on.
But they are the
comparable
standard.
pages.
So if you want them to go make something better,
Agreed.
that's the comparison.
But to compare them to the previous Patriots quarterback, no, not Cam Newton, no, not Mac Jones, but Tom Brady.
What
When
about
you go
no Baylor's Zapp you mentioned?
Yeah, you're
No
not going to throw
Bailey
Joe
Zappi.
Milton out there either?
My fault, I guess. Jared Stidham also started a game. In
Yeah,
that stretch.
let's not forget about Jarrett Stidham.
Jacoby Brissett started many games. When you go back and watch really any Brady game, but go back and watch one of Brady's Super Bowls from his final 2 or 3 with New England, every time he gets to the line of scrimmage, you're hearing some kind of adjustment. You're hearing something from him, and part of that was like the game, in that the Patriots were in a silent cadence on Sunday. It was literally they play it like it was a road game because there were so many Seattle fans in the building. But Maye isn't someone who checks anything at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't adjust the protection. Tom Brady, his 2 key words were, well, he would dictate where the mic was, but his 2 keys were Linda and Rita. Do you have any guesses what Linda and Rita meant?
Left and right,
Yeah, I would
probably.
say-
Yeah, slide the protection to the
Yeah.
left, slide the protection to the right. He'd do that on nearly any pass play. And, of course, you do that a few times on a run play to try and confuse the defense. Maye doesn't do that right now, and it's because he's so damn young. But I look at, like, Caleb Williams. His rookie season, he was sacked the most out of any quarterback in the NFL. He comes back this year, and he fixes that, and he cut his sacks in half. Yeah, I think it went from, like, 63 to 36 this year. Maye needs to do that because he was sacked the most out of any quarterback this season. He was sacked second most out of any quarterback in the regular season behind the GOAT, Geno Smith. So if he fixes that a little bit and I think gets better in his protection scheming, I do think he improves on that because there are, I only blame him for 2 of the 6 sacks he was sacked in this game. Me personally, all the blame's on him. But 2 or 3 of the sacks are, bro, I mean, you could have made some adjustment at the line. We could have got to the line of scrimmage earlier so that we had the time to adjust in certain scenarios. We could have, felt the rush coming a little bit earlier. Things like that I do think he'll improve on. But at the same time, I feel how Jack felt when that was the first thing he said was, you're not guaranteed to be back. Just because, you got here and it's early on. Patriots were ahead of schedule. They're going to have opportunities to get back. But they're also, for at least the next 4 years, going to play in a conference with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Mahomes and
Josh
Allen. That was the one I was forgetting. And Fernando Mendoza next year, of course. And
Naturally.
Justin Herbert.
apparently
Justin
that
Herbert's
guy.
up there.
It is, at the same time, it's so easy to say, he's 23. You remember the take I made with the Raiders? Try to be competitive in 5 years.
Sure.
When all of those quarterbacks are out the door. The same can still be said for Maye and the Patriots, and they're already competitive now. So the future is, in theory, bright. You're just not guaranteed to be back in the Super Bowl again. And I think that's the biggest thing that kind of sucks about it all. And I would feel, that kind of pain. But boo-hoo, poor Boston's sports fans.
The Boston championship drought
they have it
continues of, 2 years?
so poorly.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for them.